What is the core of Confucius' thought? It lies in the first statement of Confucius' great learning. The road of the great learning is to brighten bright virtue, to renovate the people, and to rest on the highest goodness. Confucius seeks the resting for people. The resting is the peaceful dwelling. The peaceful dwelling is something that man harbors in his heart. That is the way to which man is always anxious to attain. The way is the peaceful dwelling. Where is that way? That peaceful dwelling. It is at the perfect goodness. So the task of Confucius is to find out the perfect goodness. The whole life of Confucius was to look for and to teach that highest goodness. The way is the peaceful dwelling. How are we able to attain to the peaceful dwelling? The way as peaceful dwelling is the way of heaven and earth. Why do heaven and earth relate to the peaceful dwelling? When discussing heaven as originating in the Book of Change, Confucius says origination is the essential quality of goodness. Heaven is the origin of goodness, or heaven is goodness. And goodness is the peaceful dwelling. This is the profound meaning of the way of heaven and earth. The way as peaceful dwelling is heaven and earth because heaven and earth show what is the peaceful dwelling. Earth with its fertility makes plants grow. It is the place for human habitation, and heaven with its rain and sunshine also helps plants to grow, bring coolness and warmness, making plants grow. Being human habitation and bringing coolness and warmness contribute to the founding of the peaceful dwelling. On earth, there are people and animals who love one another, help one another, and on heaven there is God who grants graces. Loving one another, helping one another, and granting graces contribute to the founding of the peaceful dwelling. Man seeks the way as peaceful dwelling. From where does man get the idea of a peaceful dwelling? From heaven and earth. Heaven and earth are the origination of the idea of a peaceful dwelling. Heaven and earth are the image of a peaceful dwelling. And the peaceful dwelling is the origination of the appearance of all things, including God. More correctly, the dwelling or the use is the origination of the appearance of all things. If the dwelling is not peaceful, a thing will happen as destroying a peaceful dwelling. A house or a chalice is a thing which constructs the peaceful dwelling. A bomb is a thing which destroys the peaceful dwelling. The doctrine of the mean says, how abundant is the virtue of spirit and God. We look for them, but we do not see them. We listen to them, but we do not hear them. Yet they enter into all things, and there is nothing without them. Why do spirit and God relate to the peaceful dwelling? God or the ruler of heaven, is the image of goodness, the holy. God grants graces. Goodness and graces contribute the peaceful dwelling. Spirits indicate human souls after death. Spirit and souls after death are ghosts. There are good ghosts and bad ghosts. Spirits remind us of death, which can happen anytime. Living under the shadow of death contributes to the peaceful dwelling. Confucius has the attunement to heaven, earth, spirit, God as dimension of the peaceful dwelling. Heaven plays a dominant role. Let's take a few minutes to talk about a popular interpretation of the way as heaven and earth. The way as heaven and earth is easy to be viewed as a totality which includes all things or the universe. Confucius compiled the Doctrine of Minh. The first 20 chapters contain Confucius' words that were written down by Confucius, and the following 13 chapters contain Confucius' interpretation. Confucius says that the way as heaven and earth is limitless and gives birth to all things. The way is universal, immense, vast, boundless, large and thick, reaching far and continuing long, infinite. The way is the principle of all things. Taoism has the view that the ways as heaven and earth is nature in the meaning of the totality from which all things are born and to which all things will return. This view of the way as heaven and earth has become popular and has entered into education. When I was a student, I was taught such a view of the way. After discovering the way as heaven, earth, spirit, God, Confucius is on the journey to teach people how to practice it. First of all, where does heaven, earth, spirit, God exist? The way is human way. But we do not see heaven, earth, spirit, God in man. And moreover, it seems that heaven, earth, spirit, God exist outside man. Confucius says, the way may not be left for an instant. If it could be left, it would not be the way. The way as the universe, or the principle of all things, can be far from man. But the way as human way cannot be far from man. Let's remember Lao Tzu's discovery. Doors and windows do not make a chamber, but it is the empty space within it that is its use. The use is the human way. More clearly, the use or the human way of living makes the appearance of the chamber. The use or the human way of living does not make doors and windows as materials of the chamber. All things, including God, needs the human way to appear to man. The way cannot be far from man, but the way is not made by man. Man has the attunement to the way, and the way is present in man's attunement. It is possible to say that man has a natural attunement to the way. Acting according to this attunement, man can attain a peaceful dwelling. But in reality, it does not happen like that. In reality, man daily does not attain a peaceful dwelling. Why is it so? People have many different manners of living. Each person has his own manner of living. It is said that there are many manners of living as there are many people. However, Confucius finds two main manners: the manner of the superior man and the manner of the inferior man. According to Confucius, the superior man is conversant with righteousness. The inferior man is conversant with profit. Righteousness means the way, and Confucius says, "I have not seen a person who loved virtue and one who hated that was not virtuous. Who can go without the door? Why, then, does no one follow the way? I have not seen one who loves virtue as he loves beauty. My way fails to prevail. I will get up on a draft and float about on the sea. He who would follow me would be you. I dare to say, I would prefer not speaking. Alas, how is the way untrodden? Therefore, ordinary people follow the way of inferior person. The way of the inferior person is to live according to profit or the material world. The three main profit of the material world are money, sexual, love, and fame. Why do people look for profit? Because of ignorance, they think that profit leads to a peaceful dwelling. First of all, Confucius has to bring into light people's ignorance and to brighten the way as heaven, earth, spirit, God. Living with profit is living with rivalry, deceit, lying, robbery, war, hate, and so there is no peaceful dwelling. Living with the way is attaining the peaceful dwelling. Heaven and earth show that constructs what destroys the peaceful dwelling. Man has the attunement to the way. The attunement can be named conscience, knowing the good to do and the bad to avoid. Shame is a feeling of conscience. Today it seems that people do not know about shame, and so there is nothing to talk about the way in the present world. According to Confucius, the way as peaceful dwelling is living with benevolence, righteousness, and propriety. Such living brings peace to oneself and to others. Entering into more details, Confucius talks about the relations between father and son, between husband and wife, between brother and brother, between king and official, and between friend and friend. In order to know the way and to bring the way into life, Confucius talks about the sincerity of thought, the rectification of the mind, the cultivation of the person, and regulation of the family. The government of the state and the pacification of the world, we should pay attention to the fact that Confucius does not present the moral obligations that a person should practice, so that after death he will fly to paradise or Laverna. He presents the things a person should to construct or to avoid destroying the peaceful dwelling. The criterion is always the way as peaceful dwelling. We see two things domain. We see two different domains, the material shore and the shore of the way. So thus the superior man throws away the material shore? It is not so. Confucius presents the doctrine of the mean. What is the mean? People usually explain mean as in the middle, not beyond, not coming up for it. For example, not wasteful, not stingy, moderate, the harmony of two poles. Confucius himself said, I know how it is that the path of the mean is not walked in. The knowing go beyond it, and the stupid do not come up with it. I know how it is that the path of the mean is not understood. The man of talents and virtue go beyond it, and the worthless do not come up to it. But what is the middle? Is it half of the way and half of the material? Man needs material to live. Confucius is not stupid for such knowledge. A sage, who is a ruler, has to take care of food and clothing for people. Material or money in itself is not bad. If the whole people have large houses and abundant foods, it is a beautiful nation. However, money can cause two bad things. Because of money, people enter into rivalry, lying, robbery, killing, hate, and because of money, life becomes weary and heavy. When the superior man constructs a peaceful dwelling, he does not commit those two bad things. That is the way of the mean in the Confucian teachings. Lao Tzu says, when the great way was abandoned, there appeared benevolence and righteousness. Taoism has the view that its way is more original than the way of Confucianism. Is it right? We see that Confucius takes heaven and earth as basis like Lao Tzu does, and both of them see the way as peaceful dwelling. Both of them have the same view that the superior man follows the way, and the inferior man lives with profit, material. Both of them see two different domains, the way and profit, material. Confucius enters into details to teach the practical manners of living by the way. People often talk about Lao Tzu's exiting life and Confucius entering life. The main problem is not exiting life nor entering life, but the way. It seems that if you live far from society, it is easier for you to follow the way. But if you live far from the society, it is harder for you to help others. Moreover, the majority of people are not able to leave the society. We see that Lao Tzu also talks a lot about the government by the way. Confucius' Great Learning by Dr. TIEN CONG TRAN is available on Amazon.com.